Welcome, So-La-Rah here. How are you guys doing? How are you holding up in these interesting energies? Happy May to you. Happy Beltane to those of you who celebrated yesterday or May Day. Um, I have some downloads that I received yesterday, mostly yesterday, that I will be getting into. But first and foremost, I want to apologize to all of you guys who showed up on Saturday night into my live premiere and came to nothing. It's very interesting how it occurred, and it wasn't too surprising to me because of the strength of the resistance I faced when doing that reading. So whenever I do a reading, because of the nature of the energies that spirit has me going into, I do deal with a lot of fuckery. I do deal with a lot of resistance. I may not always speak it, but it's always there. But Saturday was, it was on a different level. And so, you know, the video wouldn't work when I premiered it. But not only that, while I taped the video and I expressed it in the video, I was facing a lot of attacks against my actual physical body, or I was feeling what was happening, maybe for some of you too. And then within half an hour of, wrapping up the video, I had my water in my home completely stopped. And then when it came back, after a lot of clearing work, it came back, which let me know it was spiritual in nature. It came back with a slight leak that I had to attend to. But the nature of it, and with it being on the weekend and the time it occurred, it had me up all night. And I say all of this because the attacking energies right now are very, very strong. I'm sure you're aware of it, but at the same time, when they enter your fields really strongly, a lot of the time they leave quite quickly too, for as long as you stand your ground. What else do I want to say about this? A lot of mental confusion and distraction right now. A lot of attacks, I feel, and I've been saying this for a while, a lot of attacks against the third eye and the crown. So your ability to receive information, but what I'm really noticing it more than anything is our ability, or your ability to process it. So a lot of upper chakra focus, and a lot of projections and illusions that are designed to, of course, as always, keep you trapped in the matrix programming, right? So to that extent, you might also dealing with people who are gaslighting you at an even higher level right now. That's the way it's coming through also. But there's a lot of attempts to what it is more than anything, it's kind of like that. The issue with the water in my house, it was like trying to just cause disruption, disruption in any way, shape, or form, to try to pull you out of your high vibration, try to pull you out of the vibration you need to uphold your highest truth and your resonance and your frequency. And I'm noticing that a lot. What I'm really noticing also, the focus right now is also on divine partnerships. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more, but I wanted to first and foremost, explain that a little bit, and to apologize for any, I know you guys like to get together and chat it up and stuff, and I love that you guys do that, and I love how supportive you are in the comments, and how you can socialize like that. And so again, I apologize. I apologize for that. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank each and every one of you who is returning, those of you who've been here from the start, those of you who've come along the way. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to the newest subscribers. If you're here for the first time and you are vibing with what it is, I have to say the messages that I have received to give with the collective, I invite you to do the YouTube thing, to like, to share, to subscribe, to comment below. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's begin with the downloads. I want to take a moment and just breathe. And just breathe. Okay. So what I was saying before is that we are entering a time now where unions are inevitable, right? And when I say unions, I always, whenever I'm referring to union energies, I'm referring to, divine partners in love and life coming together. So I'm talking about romantic unions, those unions between counterparts. There's been so much attacking against it occurring because these two people, when they come together and they combine their frequencies and they come into sexual union, and the alchemy that is created by way of their uniting, it actually seeds codes into the new earth that at that point it cannot be undone. So I'm speaking about that, but I'm also speaking about, divine partnerships in terms of business and friendships, because whoever you are here to come into alignment with now divinely, it's because you have something to give the other person, and they have something to give you, and you have something to birth together. And indeed, this is the case whether it's an exchange in a moment versus actively building something concrete together. We're here to activate one another and deactivate the old programs in the matrix, and this is why there's a lot of backlash and resistance. There has been for a while, but now that we've reached this state of inevitability, and so many of us, our divine masculine energy is awakening within us, so we're protecting our right to be who we are as individuals. And then in the male population, those who identify with being divine masculines, that energy is rising in them too. And oftentimes those who identify with being divine masculines, they come on board with the fullness of their calling in the ascension a little bit later than the divine feminine. The divine feminine energies within us, as well as those who identify with that energy more, we're here to open the door. But when the masculine gets through that door, it's like psh. So many of them are rising up now in their divine masculine truth. And once that happens, it's a wrap. It's going to happen quite quickly from what I've seen, and also what I know about masculine energy in general. So as such, there's a lot of resistance against that. There's a lot of resistance against us coming together and gleaning the information we need to put together what exactly has been going on, so that we are able to break out of it faster. So there's resistance and attacks against that too. So that's where I'm really noticing it. I want to say that the new moon in Taurus, it really does feel like a lot of that is going to have to come to an end. And the reason why I cite that particular date is because in the video I did on Saturday, I kept on talking about November of 2021, when the nodes began to switch. And I never checked to see if the nodes switched, but they had me go back to that eclipse. And there was an eclipse. It was a partial lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus, back in November 2021, November 19th, 2021, it occurred. So think of where you were on your own timeline, and where you were in your mind, and circumstances in your own life. What was happening for you back then? Because what's very interesting is that eclipse, that full moon eclipse in Taurus, occurred at the 27-degree mark in Taurus, and this new moon in Taurus is occurring at 28 degrees. Okay, so there's a grand sublimation of what occurred, in the beginning, with the entry of the nodes into Taurus and Scorpio, and setting off that energy with that eclipse, and now moving into the new moon in Taurus, which is also that's happening, I think, I forget, is it it's like it probably is around May 19th it's happening. And that's occurring about 2 months now before the nodes exit Taurus and Scorpio and enter into Aries and Libra. So right now, there's so many grand culmination energies happening, right? And a lot of it is to do with our coming back to Earth. As I was speaking about in the last video, this energy has been coming through very strongly since I began the channel. This idea that we are now becoming who we are on the earth planes as we already are in the heavens or cosmologically. Okay, so it will no longer be deniable. We're getting to a place where who you are can no longer be cloaked. It cannot be hidden. It cannot be denied. And I've said this before because this is the way energy works. Think Two of Pentacles and, you know, the infinity symbol and how energy flows. As you are being revealed, so are the ones who've been cloaking themselves in your energy. They will be revealed for who they are now too. So, you know, there's a grand culmination. There's a grand revelation. All of this is occurring. And a verse that kept coming for me yesterday, coming up for me yesterday, it's a Bible verse, and I'm sorry, I should have found it before, but I did pull it up yesterday and I didn't come and do the video. That's why I don't have it. So here we go. Because this is important. Let me see. This is a verse they were giving me, my guides were giving me yesterday concerning this. It's from 2 Corinthians, and it's chapter 10, verse 5. And yes. Okay. So you might be very familiar with the beginning of this verse. It goes, "For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God, for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments, and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled." Okay? This is this whole actually I pulled this up on BibleHub.com, and the title of this, they've titled this verse 1 to 6 of Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. It says the spiritual war. Yeah, so sorry. It goes before this. It goes, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. So what is this saying, and why is it important? So Paul in this verse is speaking about spiritual warfare. This is why they wanted me to pull this up, because the warfare right now is on another level. So what Paul is saying is that although we have this flesh, we have these bodies, we present in this form on this plane, we are so much bigger than that. And as such, we need to call upon the fullness of our divine resources and utilize the power of all of that to actually war in a way that is effective. So Paul goes on to say the weapons of our warfare, they're not carnal. They're nothing to do with what it is that you see, experience in the physical. It's nothing to do with that. Although sometimes it presents itself in that way, right? But the weapons of our warfare, how we fight, has nothing to do with carnality. In other words, a lot of the time we cannot go into this war using our mouths and speaking unless we are using our words over ourselves and over an energy. In other words, we cannot go to a person who is deep in deception and try to argue our way out of them, try to argue them out of their deception. It doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because of something I'm going to speak to you about that they've been showing me also. And I've often said to people, like, when you try to convince someone who is drowning in their own self-deception, or it doesn't even have to be that they're drowning in self-deception, they just haven't, their consciousness has not yet expanded to the level where you are. They might be on their way, but it hasn't quite reached that yet. Sometimes you may as well just be talking to a wall, because for all intents and purposes, you're talking in a different language, because on a frequency level, you're in a different place. You're in the same room, you're in the same space, you're on the same earth, but like frequency wise, you're different. You're in a different place. Dimensionally, you might be in a different place. Okay. And this is kind of how we can get into understanding time travel, but we might go there another day when I get more messages about that. But so what Paul is saying is that for the weapons of our warfare, they're not carnal. They're not about what it is we can say, or what it is we can do with our bodies, or using other forms of physical weaponry. That's not real war. Okay. And the Bible talks a lot about spiritual warfare and about how it is all a mind thing, right? And these verses also go into that too. But Paul says the weapons of our warfare, they're not carnal, but they're mighty in God, meaning that they are made powerful by your divinity. Your weapons of warfare are made more powerful as you rise into your divinity and you utilize the fullness of the power of the resources that are made available to you as you rise up into truth. Okay? And so to continue, for the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments. This was the important part. Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. So in some translations, it also speaks about casting down vain imaginations, which is really egoic thinking and projections and illusions and all forms of deception, right? So the reason I'm bringing this up, the reason it's being brought to our attention right now, is because we are in the thick, like the real thick right now, of warfare as we move into this eclipse energy. And as we move towards that zero axis point of when Taurus and Scorpio, that zero axis point of Taurus and Scorpio in the nodes, when the nodes will then switch. And so right now, almost nothing is really, and it's a difficult thing to try and explain, but almost nothing that you are experiencing in your physical reality, for the most part, unless you are actually tuning into the truth and beginning to see it in your physical reality. And that's happening for some people. But even with that, you are constantly battling through so much that isn't real. And it feels real. And at every turn, it wants to make you think it's real. But it's not. And the reason I say it's not is because, again, the Matrix was based upon the casting of illusions and the utilizing of energy to create fake projections that you would then edify by your own belief in the illusion. And then you would contribute to the energy of growing that. So it's always been an illusion, even when it felt real. And now what's happening is that we are in such intense warfare because everything is going to want to come and play with your sensibilities and your ability to tune into what is real beyond what it is you're experiencing. And indeed, that's what we've been doing all along, but now it's a different level. And the reason it's a different level is because, well, for one thing, everything that has been, all of the illusions and the projections have been shaken. And so now they're just like kind of flying everywhere. So you already have that energy of like, this is the tower energy. So all of those energies are flying to begin with, right? And the more we just let them fall without grabbing a hold of them or trying to add energy to them or hold or continue to hold on to beliefs that match their ability to stay up. For as long as we continue to cast down any energetic link to the illusion and the projection, we're bringing it down. We're bringing this bitch down. You get what I'm saying? And because of that, because right now we are at a juncture where it's time for us to come together, everything that they've used to keep us apart, for one thing, it's coming up, but they're also putting all their energy towards rebuilding those things or keeping them more rampant in our reality. And it's very interesting because I think I was speaking to someone about this today, and I was saying, I don't buy the Mercury retrograde, communication falls apart and all this shit. I don't buy it. And that's not to say that that doesn't happen, but I don't buy it. And I'll tell you why. Because from my understanding of Mercury energy and none of the planets, they're not here to try and cause disruption. They're here to help us get into alignment. So when I see this energy play out collectively, causing disruption, yes, we can bring that disruption onto ourselves when we are pushing against alignment and we're pushing for misalignment. But even then, planets don't tend to be forceful unless they're being fucked with, unless their energy, I should say, is being fucked with. So I am of the belief that this whole Mercury retrograde communication, blah, blah, I think it's a collective spell. And I think we've run away with it as a community and we are manifesting this into reality. They've used us to do it again. So that's another thing. that's a side note that's coming up also, because the energy of Mercury retrograde is also being used to pull us back into states of connecting with like sentimentality for people and situations that we need to completely dispel of. And that doesn't mean that you're falling into the trap, but I will say the energy of Mercury retrograde is being used for that purpose. Remember I said at the beginning, the energy of gaslighting is really high right now. A lot of people, whether they're consciously aware of what's happening or not, and that you are moving away entirely, because this is what's going to happen, as we move deeper into these energies, there will be a complete severance at some point, energetically speaking. And these people, these beings, they sense it. They sense that they're about to lose out on a good thing, even if it's unconscious. And as such, they're wanting to pull. They're wanting to pull you back in. And a lot of it now is through, it's always through illusion, but it's also through, like, I like to call it pulling on heartstrings and sentimentality, or almost making you believe. It's that narcissistic dangling carrot energy, almost making you believe that they've changed or something has changed. So be aware, and you have to be discerning, because there are people who are waking up and changing, and that's true. But I will say, even with that, there are people in your life who, even if they wake up and change, they're not part of your soul family moving forward. You know, they're just not. So, so be aware right now, because as the way is being made clear for you to move forward into divine unions, everything and their mother wants to come and keep you in old energies. Okay, and be aware of the thoughts that you're having about yourself. And if you are in union already with a divine partner, or you're in divine partnerships, be very aware of some of the energies that are coming up around that right now. I'm seeing a lot of stuff come up. And this is where the hard work of knowing who you are as a divine being, and knowing if you are in divine partnership, knowing and trusting in the divinity of the others you're walking with, this is where it becomes really important. Because what is about to happen is that they're going to want, well, they've always been trying to keep us apart, but now they're going to want to try and pit us against one another. And they're doing that by way of projections, illusions, entities, but most importantly, because that's all external, most importantly, they're wanting to play on the old wounds that you've had, that you've already, for the most part, let go of. They want you to recontract to some of the old wounded energies, so you sabotage yourself in these situations. Be aware, because the energies that I'm picking up on right now, when it comes to coming between divine partners and divine unions coming together, it's really subtle and it's really sneaky. But this is where it's really important for you to know thyself and to know who you are divinely. Okay, and to that extent, I forgot to say this at the beginning. Let me put it out there before I forget. I offer a sacred bathing service, where you can come to me with a question of what you're dealing with, and with my herbal knowledge. And you know, I am trained in Western herbalism, but I use herbs esoterically. You can come to me with your situation, and I will prescribe or give you advice for how to utilize the power of herbs for bathing, for sacred bathing. And because of the nature of the energies we're in, normally I have a 48 to 72 hour turnaround time. I have decreased it from now until Friday. If you come to me and you want that service specifically because you're trying to clear and cleanse those energies persistently out of your fields, I will get back to you within 12 to 24 hours. That's only from now until Friday the 5th of May. So if you see this message after Friday the 5th of May, everything is probably going to go back to 48 to 72 hours. So I just want to, I posted it on the community board yesterday, and I wanted to say it now because I meant to say it at the beginning. So with that said, this is one of the really important or one of the key ways of helping yourself with these energies, is because, like I said, there's a lot of slinging energy, projecting energy, trying to keep people stuck in narratives that aren't their own. And the only way you can really discern is if you know your own energy and you stay in your own energy. And for some of you who are under really heavy warfare for all manner of reasons, you know, a really important thing is to constantly be clearing and cleansing your energy bodies, okay? And there are certain herbs that align specifically with clearing out mental energies, and there are certain ones that are more effective for emotional. And because you're combining herbs with water and using water as a conduit to cleanse, it already does the deep emotional cleanse. So this is why sacred bathing can be so effective. And to answer one person's question quickly before I get back into this, you do not have to sit in a bath to do this. I know many of you do not have baths. Even I have a bath, and I don't always do a bath. You can literally, you know, have a designated bowl and pour the water over your head at the completion of your shower, you know. And even if you're not going to use herbs, just taking salt water in a bowl and activating it to clear your fields is really potent in and of itself, because salt and water both have master crystal qualities, in the sense that whatever you speak over water, it can become. Whatever you speak over salt, it can do. okay? For as long as you are doing it in faith and you are also in gratitude for it's important too. But yeah, salt will take on your intentions, and water definitely will, you know. We should all be activating our waters, not even in the bath, but when we drink and activating the waters within ourselves. We have the power to do that. That's what you're doing with affirmations, guys. That's what you're doing when you're speaking words of when you're affirming yourself. You are activating and programming your own waters. When you are speaking words over someone else, you are activating and programming their waters, right? Which is why we are to speak life and not death over what? We speak death over that which needs to be destroyed, right? Because things need to come down too. When you speak karmic justice over some things, you are speaking death, because in divine balance, which is what karmic justice really is, it's bringing the balance back. Some things must come down within self too. You know, when we speak karmic justice over anything in our lives, we are also doing it to self. You know, so any of the energies that we're supporting the thing that we want to call karmic justice on, they must die in self too. But that's a whole other conversation. So why are we talking also about these divine, the coming between divines? Because my guides were showing me that they've been keeping us apart by utilizing this thing that my guides have been calling frequency fences. And the way they showed it to me is that you can trap a dog. Like, there are people, I don't have a dog, but there are people who put these frequency fences around their property sometimes to keep their dogs from going out, and also sometimes to keep other animals from coming in. But that's because dogs are able to hear certain things that we can't hear, and when they get too close, it pings them, right? It hurts their ears, and so they sense danger. It puts them in fear, and so they constrict, they retract, right? This is what has been going on for many divine you know, the whole twin flame runner chaser thing. It was all orchestrated using frequency gates and frequency fences between people. I don't think I'm supposed to go too deep into that, but I will say that's how a lot of those energies were orchestrated, and continue to be. You know, they put out a lot of frequencies into our atmosphere to control what it is we do and how far we can reach. And so one of the ways they keep divines apart is through sending out certain frequencies. And my guides have not gotten into it with me. Like, I haven't gone further than that information. But from what I know about the other frequency fuckery, which I was aware of, I was aware of the frequency fuckery, but I wasn't aware of the specifics of using frequency fences to keep divines apart. There's also like certain frequencies that are designed to pull you into certain states, right? To pull you into lower states. And I would go so far as to say, for those of you who have really important missions in the New Earth timelines, that concern you coming together with your divine partner, I would go so far as to say that your frequency fences are customized for you. What they were showing me is that hold on a second, because there's a lot here and I want to make sure that this is gonna, I feel like I'm supposed to come back to this energy of the frequency fences and go into the next batch of downloads, because it's all connected, and I think we're going to come back around. This is all really important right now. It's happening during Taurus season because, as I've said before in other videos, Taurus energy is connected to your Taurus energy field. It's about everything you are energetically. Everything you bring to your earthly table as an energetic being is in your Taurus field. Okay? Your gifts, your talents, your powers, your access, everything. Okay? So right now, there's a grand reclamation of our Taurus energy for ourselves. This is what all of this is about, especially Taurus season, but this is what all of the North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, this is what it's been preparing us for. And all of this heavy Taurus energy that I spoke about in the last video with, 2021, the year of the Hierophant, all of that stuff, it's all interconnected. And even this full moon in Scorpio, it is happening on a 555 portal, right? Because, or you could say 557 if you add the extra 2. But if you say 5523, like you write it like that, it's a 555 portal. Okay, so now they're telling me, think about what was occurring in your life in 2021, which was another 555 portal or a 553 portal. So if it's a 555 portal, that's connected to the devil energy contracts. And if it's a 553 portal, it's connected to the death card energy, which is Scorpio energy, the ending of contracts. There was a big, there was a big signaling of the ending of contracts in the 5-5 portal of 2021. And now we're here in the 5-5 portal of 2023, which again, if you break it down, is 555, that's devil energy, it's contracts. But this time around, it's 557, that's 17, which aligns with the energy of the star card. It means that it's time for your new earth commitments. I don't like to say contracts, but your new earth commitments to begin to roll on forward with the help of the chariot energy, which is underpinning and supporting the energies of 2023. So what they were showing me is that there's been a lot of switching and programming consciousness. And I'm not going to go too into that because they haven't asked me to go deeply into that, but they wanted me to put it out there. There's been a lot of switching and programming of consciousness. And when I delved into getting more information, what they were showing me, what they were speaking to me about, again, was astral ritual sacrifice. Astral ritual sacrifice. So as you know, there's a lot of that energy that occurs on the earth plane for energetic purposes, for their rituals, right? There's real sacrifice, sacrifice of people, sacrifice of animals, blood sacrifices, those things occur, right? But then all other manner of sacrifices also that occur, energetically speaking. But there are things that occur astrally that are connected to the energetic sacrifices here. And what these astral ritual sacrifices do is that they create the same energy within your consciousness. Stay with me because it's a complex idea, right? It creates the same energy within your consciousness as if it has occurred to you in physical, but without you consciously being aware. So what does that mean? It means that I want to be careful because I want you guys to be very discerning as you continue to watch this, because I don't want to trigger anyone. And I want to be very careful what I say. So pretty much what they're showing me is that it's the same as an earthly trauma. but it is performed astrally. Okay, so like in the astral planes, we've already, gone through these energies before. You can bind a person astrally. You can bind them astrally, and in real time, it can close up all manner of avenues in their life and keep them stuck, right? That would be like the binding of someone. But I want you to go deeper, and I want you to think about like heinous acts of trauma that people do to people in real time without actually killing them, and what that produces emotionally, the state it produces. Think about violence, really violent acts, and what that does to a person's psyche when they go through that here on the earth plane. And what they're showing me is that when that thing is done to a person astrally, it can produce the same effects in them emotionally without the conscious recollection of the event, which, when you think about it, can possibly be worse. And it's not a comparison thing, but here's the thing, like people who have violent things happen to them and they black out often will struggle more in the healing process than those who actually are able to access the memory in order to process it and do what they have to do to get free of it. But what do you do when you are living a life where, for all intensive purposes, as far as anyone else sees and as far as you see, there's no reason for you to be acting out the way you do because somebody else has it worse, right? That might have been the very language that was used for some of you. But meanwhile, astrally, some really fucked up things were happening to you that, as far as your consciousness is concerned, it's the same as it happening in real time. So the whole point of it was to do this to you astrally, so it would program your consciousness into the same frequencies as if you'd had the physical experience. And for some of you, they've been doing this shit to you since you were a child. Since your consciousness was in the state of a child here on earth. Okay? So the way they were showing me is like some kind of grand experiment with divine beings. So they've had some, this is organized now, they had some that they would put through these traumas physically. Physical abuse, violence, right? And then they would have others who they would put through the same energies astrally. And for some, they would combine. So they would have it happen physically and astrally. And just observe and control the variables. It was a grand experiment. They'd switch out the variables to see and observe how divines would cope or react. Different divines. Oftentimes based upon what it is you came here to do. So what they ultimately were trying to do, which they haven't succeeded in doing, doesn't stop them from trying, but what they ultimately wanted this to culminate in was a complete theft of our divinity. They thought they could completely rob us of our divinity by perpetually traumatizing us, controlling the variables here in our physical realities to ensure constant cycles of trauma by even getting those people who are, family involved, sometimes completely consciously and sometimes unconsciously, because I want to remind you that all of this access that people get into the matrix, it comes at a price. The access that they are afforded by entering into certain societies and corporations when they sign these contracts, what they don't realize is that they're opening up their bloodlines. So what they're doing in real time, signing contracts stuff, they don't realize that there are spiritual implications, and that they're not just signing on the dotted line to have this and to have that, or to get this title. That's not it. They are actually the trinkets of the matrix. It's a narcissistic template. They dangle carrots in front of you, right? But they don't really tell you what's going on beneath. So you think that or these people, a lot of them, they thought they were rising and getting this, and really what they were doing were, in order to get access and get these things, they were enslaving others and giving grander access to your consciousness by signing contracts that linked your bloodline into these other, that not linked your, well, it opened your bloodline so they could have access to you. It's always been about you. It's always been about the divine beings that have been sent here to expose, and they didn't want that. So I have a longer work all on this. I'll get into that right now. But so ultimately what you're dealing with here on a higher level, you're not really dealing with flesh and blood. You're not. You're dealing with soulless, sunless, soulless beings who wanted to get you to a place where they could make you like them too. So they wanted to strip you of your divinity so they could have it and render you soulless. I spoke about this in another video where I was talking about how they're fear-based beings, but you're a love. You are love, and what they're trying to do is strip you of that, and give you their fear. And mind you, what they're stripping you of, when they strip you, what they're stripping you of is your frequency, in order to then go and use it and barter it spiritually to create the illusions and the projections that had everyone trapped here, including you. But the whole point of this was they wanted to get to a place where we would be soulless like them, and they could steal our solar power, our light. And then in this way, eventually what their mindset was, that in this way, they wouldn't have to bind and sacrifice us anymore, because they would have full access to our energy to do what it is that they wanted. That was the point. So up until now, they've had to harvest us because they couldn't accomplish this. It's kind of like the difference between buying a fish in the shop and having to keep on going back and buying a fish to eat versus owning the fish farm and learning how to cultivate it, right? That's ultimately what they wanted to do. And when my guides are wanting me to speak on one more thing, I think, and then we're going to wrap up the downloads. You know how we always hear about how celebrities sell their souls? You can't technically really sell your soul, at least not the way I've been shown it. But you can give up pieces of it, which is why when we heal, we call back all parts of ourselves from everywhere, because they've had us trapped in all manner of places, dimensions, realities, boxes, underwater, everywhere. They've had us all over the place in order to keep us separated from self, so that we would not reestablish our link above and our link below. Because this is another thing my guides were showing me, is that part of the ascension has been about helping us to reestablish in fullness our access above and our access below, because we didn't have that. Because of the frequencies, we didn't have that. So in other words, we did not have a clear communication between our crown and source or divine. There were a lot of frequency. There was a lot of frequency fuckery to keep those gates closed. So, you know, you have your crown, you have your soul star, and you have then the stellar gateway. A lot of fuckery has been done between especially the soul star and the stellar gateway. And likewise, a lot of fuckery has been done between the Earth star, your Earth star, and Gaia's Earth star, and our ability to connect. To connect ourselves, to root ourselves in the earth, and to root ourselves in the heavens, and to become the bridge. And this is what ascension has been about. And this right now, what we are establishing right now through the Mercury retrogrades, moving through the earth signs in the year 2023, is we are really reestablishing our connection to the core of the earth so that the grid system can go back to being how it was before the earth became enslaved. Before we all fell under the illusion and the fuckery of their frequencies and energetic bullshit. So, sorry, to go back to the selling of their souls. There are people in the realm of who are famous who were divine beings. There had to be in order to keep such a grand illusion alive. Likewise, in all facets of mainstream, big time like institutions that uphold the energies of the matrix. But a lot of them have lost their access this lifetime to their ability to ascend because of the contracts that they were lured into. Let's put it that way. Yeah, let's put it that way. So ultimately, it's the societies and the orders and these institutions, like the ones I was just talking about, those are the access to those places. Is what grants them access to us and our sacred energy and our sacred knowledge and our energy fields. And so, to that extent, like I said, when you have family members who pledge themselves to these various societies to varying degrees, it opens the door that gains access energetically to you. Or when you have divine beings sacrifice themselves for fame and fortune, they are opening the doors a lot of the time to us, if that makes sense. So to that extent, like all of this doppelganger energy has also been an attempt to experiment and to switch out and to program consciousness. So your higher consciousness, that part of you that actually already exists that you're tuning into now because time is an illusion. That's partly what has been being taken from you too, has been being siphoned from you too. This is how they would get in a hand on your creative ideas. I'm sure many of you as divine beings have had ideas that you had or you began to birth or maybe you began to think, and all of a sudden you see it in the mainstream like a few weeks or a few months, oftentimes a few months later. That's what happens when they can tap into your grand library, your akasha, but also your consciousness. It's really complex, and it blows my mind too. So I hope that I am articulating it in a way that makes sense. And as always, those of you who have more information about this, please feel free to speak about it in the comments below, or for those of y'all in the live chat. But I'm going to put my notebooks away now. And I'm going to get into the cards. I actually switched out some of my decks because I'm feeling like even in the midst of this really heavy energy, there's a lot of new energy coming in. There's a lot of newness coming in. There's new energies here. Like I said in the last video, it's almost like they're like hanging. They're in the emotional planes, ready to burst forth. So as such, on Sunday, my guides had me reorganize and put certain decks away and take out other ones. So today they want me to go into one of my karmic decks. So let's see what comes out. Let's see what information is going to come out of this deck. Spirits of destruction. Yep, that's very much that's very much the what I've been picking up on. Spirits of destruction, especially being sent to your money, projects, relationships. Ooh, we have incest spirits, but what I'm getting more than anything is that these are ancestral in nature. Yeah. This is family stuff with the 12th house at the bottom. Then we have blood rituals. These are blood, yeah. We have blood rituals, and we got the 2nd house. I don't want to say this. This incest spirit energy is pointing its finger back in the direction of the energy that I was picking up about the things that they would do astrally to expose your consciousness to certain things that didn't happen physically, but as far as your emotional and mental body were concerned, it did. And even your physical body sometimes. I'm sure some of you can relate to that, waking up with, sometimes with bruises, cuts, pain, certain feelings. There's something here about these blood rituals that they're wanting to show, that speak to us about, like speak to me about. It's something to do with how when these people do pledge in societies where they actually utilize blood, it's almost like they're opening the gates. They open the gates, or they opened the gates to the lower astral energies, lower astral ancestral entities, which is partly why they wanted something to do with Abaddon. Something to do with Abaddon, the great destroyer, and how these rituals where they employ blood for access has to do with opening the gates to ancestral energies specifically connected with that bloodline. How do I explain this? So remember I said there was something about, it was coming through before, but I wasn't getting it, about the opening a bloodline up. This is what it is. It's like when they do these, or when they did these blood rituals to bind themselves or to enter into these societies, what they're doing spiritually is they're opening the gates to lower astral entities that specifically are connected to the destruction of the bloodline that that person is from. We have money, sorry, show you. We have money wounds, and then we have this, it's coming out right below the second house and the blood ritual. So this again is showing me that this is, well, this is what they would play on. This is what they play on with people. This is why Taurus season has been about connecting to our true value. It's been about reconnecting with who we are as divine beings, so that we stop aligning ourselves with this false narrative of the matrix that told us that our value lay in external things, but especially our value was connected to money and how much money we have and how much money we make and how much money we can flaunt. And part of the reason why we're all being like chastened in that area is because we're creating a new earth, and we cannot bring these energies of woundedness into it, okay? Because it's the woundedness, it's the way we were wounded around our value and when it comes to money, that actually was why so many people sold their souls, quote unquote, or gave pieces of their soul or access to their bloodlines in order to be a part of something that would then give them access in the matrix to make money. They would play and exploit their money wounds or their lack of value. Because for different people, it's different. Some of these people came from rich families, but the reason why they would go into this was because they felt they weren't seen, or because they weren't really, because money was more important than them, and they had to try to make something of themselves in order to be recognized, or in order to be accepted. All of these orders, societies, they play on our wounds. That's how they get people to accept doing things, or that's how they would make themselves desirable. I can give you, it's like old, it's like this, the story of Jesus, when Jesus is fasting in the desert for 40 days, right after he gets baptized by John the Baptist, and then the dove, which is the Holy Spirit, descends upon him. And then he took himself out into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights and fasted. And that was when he was tested. He was tested. I don't know why they're giving me this verse, but in the desert, Satan came to Jesus, or the character they call Satan came to Jesus and said, if you really are the Son of God, turn the stone into bread. And he said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Our provision, our sustenance was never any of this. And this is what, I was talking about yesterday in the short I did. this reclamation of our divine birthrights must happen. We must first and foremost know what our divine birthrights are, because everything in this matrix system has made it about earning. Earning what? You are a child of the Most High God. Everything was already provided for you. It was stolen. It was stolen. And at every turn, then it was dangled back at you and you were told you had to earn it. You had to earn it. And this is how they got people doing despicable things. The promise of the thing that it is that they wanted. The promise of the thing that it is that they wanted that wasn't really actually what they wanted. Because a lot of these people, what they don't realize what it is that they want is they want to be whole. They want to be whole. They want to be reunited with the truth of who they are and their divine nature. But because of being in this matrix system and its programming, it makes you think that you want things that you don't. And that's where it traps you. And this is where a lot of these beings are about to find themselves really fucking trapped. Because they thought their salvation was in money and in titles and accolades. And they're about to find out that all those things they chased and they worked so hard for are actually the things that they were trappings, they were traps. Hold on a second, because there's another message. I can't seem to get it right now. Maybe it will come through after. Maybe it will come through later. But you know, as the matrix collapses, what's happening is that everything, all the illusions are dying, and we are still living ensconced in illusion. So just wait, because everything will be seen for how it truly is. And some of these people, their greatest judgment will be that they spent their lives chasing what ultimately led them to their own destruction, because that's all these energies ever could do. That's all they wanted to do. Understand and overstand that these energies, a lot of them hate humans and hate divines. Hate us. But they're the very ones that will pretend that they're here to get you out of a situation. And they will lead you into your own destruction because it's their pleasure to do so. And many of these people are going to wake up and they're going to see that the yellow brick road they were following, thinking that this was wisdom, was actually leading them all the while to their destruction. And not only was it leading them all the while to their destruction, nothing will be hidden. And they will come to find out all of the things they actually were doing spiritually to others, all the ways they were actually hurting others. Because, like I said, some of these people, you know, while some of them it's conscious, for a lot of them they are not, because they do not know who they are. They do not know how energy works. They do not know, you know, they're living in you know, vast amounts of deception. They made no correlation. They had no idea. A lot of us didn't. I didn't. Like, this is all stuff I've learned. You know, this is all stuff I've had to learn. I didn't come here remembering this. I came here knowing it, but I didn't come here remembering it. And because it's the turn of an age, all records must be expunged. Everything must be revealed. It's universal law. So we have no way out, casting illusions. No way out, casting illusions. So this is speaking to me right now about how so much of the reason why people get involved in these things, beyond, like, there's some people who don't they're just there are some people who just want accolades. It still is woundedness, but that's all they want. They just want to be famous, they want to be seen, they want to be admired, or in business they want to be respected, or politics they want to be respected, and all that other stuff. But then there are some people who chose this path because it seemed like the only way out. Or not it seemed like the only way out, but it seemed like a way out. It seemed like a way out, and it seemed like a way out that was quite easy. Like, they didn't read the fine print. As my mentor used to say, they didn't read the fine print. And oftentimes they weren't actually shown the fine print. So a lot of this is because of the Matrix's constant casting of illusions that the only way out is through aligning with its way of doing things, or with its systems at every level. That's the only way forward, right? And then we have Pharisees coming out. And, Pharisees are those who have this air of telling others how it is they should be, but they don't, as I say, that was 1:11:11 on the clock, but they don't walk the walk. They talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, because they don't have the ability or the frequency to actually align their lives with what it is they speak. And it's actually in Jesus's day, he wasn't interested in exposing Rome. Think about this. He wasn't interested in exposing Rome. He had no beef with Rome. Yeah, there were things that I'm sure he didn't agree with, but his mission wasn't about exposing Rome. Jesus riled up the religious order of the time, the Pharisees, the ones who were the secret societies of the day, the ones who were energy harvesting the people and not actually telling them their potential, the ones who were trying to make the people think that they had to go to them to get to God. Meanwhile, they're just robbing them blindly of all their divine resources. The ones who were stealing from the people to actually act as if they had some kind of authority that they didn't have, because all of their authority and their wisdom they got by siphoning them. Jesus came to expose and destroy the Pharisees. He called them whitewashed tombs. In other words, they looked and they appeared to be clean, but inside there's nothing. No soul, no light, dead, tombs. When you begin to see when you begin to see how your energy has upheld the illusions of some of the most prominent matrix identities, when you begin to see all of the veils of illusion fall, at the bottom of the deck, we have Venusian magic. This is also glamour magic. Glamour magic, and it's again the stealing of resources, of money, of love. A lot of them were, this is why they have their frequency fences around divine partners, because they're stealing from your unions. They were stealing from your unions. All manner of things, ideas, projects. At one point, frequencies. At another point, spirit babies. And for a lot of you, they used your own family and friends to do this to you by the promise of something, or by casting an illusion that this was their only way into something. It's all about gates, right? This is the only way into being successful in this arena. Sign this contract. So for almost all of you, if you are a divine being, none of you have done well in your careers up until this point. Or if you have, it's only been recent. It's only been recent. I mean, yeah, it's possible that, you know, one or two divine beings, there always are. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. So there are some of us in fields, like prominent places, that are awake. That's true too. But I would say the majority of us, because of what it was they were doing in order to block us, freezer spells and delay magic in order to fuck with your ability to be accepted and to be seen in your light with this 10th house energy. A lot of you are destined to be public figures. A lot of you are destined for fame, 10th house. A lot of the fuckery they were doing was with your MC line. It was with your MC line in your astrology and with your 10th house. Freezing that aspect of your astrology so that it could be transferred to them. And for many of you, they got you to agree through cursed objects or gifts. So some of you were given things very purposefully by family members, friends, people close to you, because what was happening, and sometimes these people knew that they were cursed objects, and sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they just thought this was harmless. You know, oh, just give them a gift. Oh, okay, I can do that. It's not a big deal. But what it actually was achieving was when they were able to get you to receive the gift, and I've talked about this before, it was like you consenting to what was being done. You consenting to it, and you grounding that energy by holding on to this energy they meant for you. The curse they meant for you. I'm being very careful today because the things that they're showing me, if I say them the way I see them, I just shouldn't. So this is why there's a lot of reticence in my approach today, because I want to be very careful so that I can still say what needs to be said, but in a way that exercises discernment. This energy is very heavy, and it's an hour and 18 minutes in, so I think I'm actually going to close it out for now. I am actually working on a project, a writing project about a lot of this stuff, and that probably will be the best format to get this information out there. And when it is ready, I will let you guys who are interested in like the workings, the workings of all of this, I will let you know. but it's coming up right now because this is part of the heavy scorpionic energy that's been hidden in the age that upheld the old age, that is actually coming out right now. And whenever something is being purged, it's being purged out of the systems and the earth, but it's being purged out of us too. So remember I said in the beginning that there's a lot of stuff being thrown at us to try to attach to our own wounds to cause us self-sabotage in our divine partnerships or the coming of those. It would have a lot to do with the spells that we have been under and the wounds that were the wounding that we accrued because of those spells, and falling prey to the wounds again instead of seeing the manipulation. Being so blindsided by the wound or by something of the ego, something connected to matrix logic or wisdom, that we lose the fact that it's an illusion. Okay, they're telling me to go into this deck, the Chakra Wisdom deck. I've had this for a minute, but I very rarely have used it for collective. I've had this deck for about 3 years. I had it when I had my old channel. I don't think I ever used it on my old channel either. Okay, let me just take a moment to connect. What final messages do we have? What final messages, Spirit? Helicopter. We got mysticism, third eye energy, mysticism. Why is mysticism here? Why is mysticism here? Well, I just saw renewal. And I see prayer, mysticism, and abundance. So that is a third eye and solar plexus. Give me a second, guys. Wow. Wow. Okay. I want you guys to look at this picture, okay? Look at this picture. So this is the abundance card, solar plexus energy, solar energy. It's a chest, a lit up money chest that almost looks like ethereal, or the energy around it is ethereal. And do you see how this little girl is dangling something over a vent, some kind of vent, and in the background there's a house and it says for sale. And then we have this man who is over the vent and he is in despair. And then we see him in the background and he's drinking. This is about a transfer. This is about the energy of, well, for some of you, this is the energy of somebody who did this to you from the time you were a child. And either they did it very consciously, or they did it not fully recognizing the spiritual implications of what it was that they were subjecting you to through certain agreements. But it feels like this person is either waking up or they're about to have a very rude awakening about this. And part of their awakening is going to have to do with your receiving back what it was that was transferred out of you. And what's really interesting is that I did mention in the beginning that energy of things happening to people as children when it has to do with creating situations within your own consciousness that would occur astrally that you'd bring with you physically. So someone may be finding out what it is that they've actually been signed up for all this time. They will in general, but they might be finding out now. And it's because you've woken up with this mysticism. It's because there's been a renewal of the truth of who you are. It's because you actually see clearly now. And once you begin to see clearly, all that they were able to steal from you by hoodwinking you, by keeping you confused and keeping your third eye closed, all of it has to start to transfer back. And for a lot of them, what happens at that point is that they're going to be discarded by these groups, societies, because they didn't deliver on what it was that they ultimately wanted, which was to be able to separate you entirely from your higher self. Like what I was saying, have full access to your energy. And also someone is seeing as you recuperate the fullness of your truth, your third eye, and you're seeing truth and you're walking in it, and that part of you is being renewed. Someone is noticing the correlation between that and everything like that they're trying to build, like falling through their hands like sand. We have prayer at the bottom of the deck. And it's solar plexus energy again. So for some of you, it's the power of your prayers that is helping. And if that's not the case, you're being told to pray. And prayer is very subjective. I like to think of prayer as the way you speak to spirit, you speak to the divine, you speak to your guides, and then meditation is how you receive the answers. I'm going to put this away now. I'm going to go into this deck. I know it's a long reading, but it somehow doesn't feel finished to me enough to go into the abundance angels. I'm not feeling this energy of closure yet. So I'm going to go into this deck that one of you beautifully gifted me. It's called Believe in Your Magic. Ooh, wow. At the bottom we have Castle. It's time for healing, not war. The war is over. You're done. You're done. This stuff is over. Like I keep on saying, sorry guys, I'm just grabbing the cards I felt. As I keep on, and I've said this before, you're not actively in war. You are just standing your ground for what you've already won, because you're dealing with disobedient energies. That's what you're dealing with. That at every turn want to drag you back into a new war by you submitting to them and making you believe that you still have to fight. But you don't. You have to defend yourself from that energy because you're not fighting against flesh and blood. It's not a physical battle. You have to defend yourself, clear yourself, reconnect with yourself, cast down vain imaginations and arguments that exalt themselves against the truth of who you are divinely, and exalt themselves against the truth of who others are who are walking in their divine alignment. You have to do that work, but you're not actively in war. Hence the reason why these things, when they come in, they leave quite quickly. Once upon a time, like what had happened to me over the weekend, it would have become a whole debacle. It didn't, because it can't. So shark came out in reverse. We have confidence. It comes with time and practice. Okay, number 23. So right now, this is all about the restoration. You see the sun in the background of your confidence also. And also, this is a message coming through to be compassionate with yourself in the midst of all of these transitioning energies. And I wrote about this briefly yesterday in the Daily Alchemy message. We are learning right now how to be. We've never, like, we may have done this many incarnations ago, but for all intensive purposes, we have to remember now, none of us have lived like this. So we may as well just be very comfortable with recognizing that we don't really know what we're doing. We're just trusting. And your confidence comes from trusting and taking steps that line up with that level of trust. So don't nobody got it. I don't care how people appear right now. I don't care how holy and sanctified, anointed and appointed they may seem. Don't nobody got it together. And don't nobody got all the answers either. We're all here with pieces of the puzzle. We're all here to come together. That's why they don't want us together. That's why they be doing their shit with their frequency fences. They never wanted this day to come when we all take the pieces of our divine puzzle of truth and we bring it together to form the closest thing to absolute truth here in the earth planes. That's what they're afraid of. Lavender, surround yourself with love. So lavender, again, is very protective. It's very nurturing. It's all about being in parasympathetic mode, relaxation. All of this is important right now for integration. And this energy of not being hard on yourself. Like I said, you're learning right now. You're learning how to live. You're learning how to love. You're learning how to conduct yourself in the new earth. You're learning how to conduct yourself with your new sense of value. You're learning how to work through these final stages of the woundedness that's being exposed. You're learning how to deal with others when that happens and how to do it from a space of expansion and love instead of fear. You're learning, so be patient with yourself and don't put the same levels of expectations on yourself that you had when you were trying to keep up with the matrix. It's not the same. Every time that's going to bash your confidence because it's not who you are and it's never who you were supposed to be. Okay, we have shark coming out in reverse. Stay away from the situation. So there's a time in war to there's a time to run and retreat, and there's a time to go forward. And some of us are being challenged right now to move forward into situations where once upon a time we had fear because we were afraid that it was going to do something to us, right? But we're not fear-based beings, and we're rising out of that. And in order for us to cross the barrier of the frequency fences they put around us, some of us have to be more comfortable with going into those places where they try to incite so much fear, whether it's within or without, and recognizing and realizing you're going to be good. You're good now. You're good. You're not the same person you were once upon a time when you went into that space. For some of you, this is to do with entering into new relationships, friendships, business partnerships, divine partners. You've been in hermit mode for so long that your own defense system is up way too high, and now it's time to allow that to unravel. You know, with the lavender, being very gentle with yourself, but at the same time dismantling the fear, because the fear denotes that you have no power, and that's not true. That's a lie and an illusion. Wings. You never needed those wings to fly. So this is all about the illusions of the things that you were told you needed in order to be something or to do something or to go somewhere. You know? Release. Let go of all of that. You always were magical. You don't need a wand to be magical. You are magic. You always were these things. You've always had the recipe to the sauce. You always have. you never needed anything, and you definitely never needed anything outside of yourself. Okay, that feels better. The energy feels better now that I can go in and get you an Abundance Angels deck, and I feel good now about closing out. Gratitude list. Counting your blessings and feeling gratitude for what you already have helps you to be centered in your heart instead of fixated on worries in your mind. What and who are you grateful for right now? Keep focusing upon gratitude and you'll discover the amazing generosity of the universe. So again, this is tuning out of fear and tuning into love. When you recognize that you already have everything you need and you've always had everything you need, then you realize and you recognize how bountiful you are and how full of value you are. And of course, that is something to be admired and grateful for. You should be grateful for yourself, you know. So it's a new way of doing things. Have courage to ask for and accept help. Asking for help is a sign of strength, as is accepting it as it is offered to you. Very often when you ask God for help, prayers are answered through other people. Be sure to accept this assistance as well as give it to others as you are guided. So again, this is taking me back to that card about prayer, and also that card that was coming out before where I was saying some of some of us are being asked to begin to tear down the walls of defense because we don't have to live in that fear frequency anymore. It's time to learn how to be in a state of receiving. And sometimes that state of receiving means that you have to ask for something, whether you're asking your guides for something, not begging. They told me they told me to say that, not begging, because there's so many people who go to prayer and they think prayer is like begging God. You don't have to beg for what you already have. That's a matrix lie. Those are the Pharisees, the Pharisaical energies that wanted to tell you that, again, that's what you had to do. You had to beg God to bless you. God wants to bless you. God's just waiting for us to wake up. If, you know, God's source, wanting us to wake up and see that we're already blessed, because then that's how it pours forth. It's from within that your fountain flows. It's from within. It's from within. What was it like when Jesus met? Was it when he met Mary Magdalene at the well, and he read her and he said, "You have." He said something about all of her past, her love life, like she had X amount of husbands and now she's living with a man and that man ain't even her husband, like Jesus. I love me some Jesus. Jesus kept it real. And so he told her all of these things that I guess she was pretending, not in a judgmental way. He just told her, and then he said, but if you you come to this fountain to drink water every day, but I'll show you how to access a fountain that's everlasting. And that fountain is in you. It always was in you. This is what the joke has been the whole time. The fountain was always you. The vineyard was always you. The treasure chest was always you. Anyway. On that note, I'm going to close it down because now this is the longest one ever. 1 hour and 38 minutes in, but I had to move through these energies gingerly just now. So I hope that this reading, the downloads, helped you. I hope that they were cohesive and not all over the place. Yes. If you would like to work with me in any capacity, please make sure to check out my website. It will be linked below. And after which point, if you would like to pursue working with me by way of, mentorship, my smaller services, or purchasing a tarot astrology report, then please email me or go through the contact page on my website to express your interest, and then we'll take it from there. I don't have checkout functions on my website, and that's intentional because I want to know who's coming to me. If you'd like to donate to the channel or donate a deck, my PayPal information and my wish list are below too. If you'd like to join the Daily Alchemy members portal, it's a great time to join. It's the beginning of the month. Then you can find that information on my website too. And in the Daily Alchemy members portal, if you don't know, I do 5 pieces of channeled writing a week, much like the ones that I share occasionally with the wider collective, as well as extra reports, extra writing as and when I'm led. And what else? So yes, the Daily Alchemy members portal, you can join directly through the site. That's the one thing I do have a direct checkout process for. I only ask that in the payment notes you let me know what your Instagram title is and your name so I can let you in. Whew. What else? I think that's it. I do have another YouTube channel. I've been a little bit MIA from there for the past 10 days. It is called So-La-Rah Rises. It is my backup channel, and it is a channel where I do shorter messages when I don't have the ability to come in and do long form videos. I think that's it. I'm going to love you and leave you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the ways you contribute not only to the growing and the spreading of my light, but for also seeding your light and also growing and sharing one another's light. Thank you. Thank you for being here at this monumental time on our monumental and exciting time in our Earth's history. I wish you love, joy, peace, bliss, vitality, harmony, every beautiful thing under the sun that is already yours, already divinely your birthright. Until next time, be well.